After my husband and I got married, his first love got divorced. He thought that I was the one who made him miss his first love again. After achieving fame and success, he deliberately crashed the car with me and died. Fate brought me back to the starting point again. I resolutely proposed a divorce. He wasted his time with his first love. But after I achieved fame and success, he held my hand and questioned me. Why don't you want me anymore? Ethan, stop the car. Stop it quickly. There was a large truck in front, but Ethan's car didn't slow down. Instead, it was getting faster and faster. Jolie, how does it feel to be on the verge of death? Enjoy it well. You deserve it. Ethan's face was filled with an almost pathological madness. I was scared. I used an imploring voice, longing for Ethan's mercy. Ethan, I'm begging you. For the sake of our years of marriage, stop the car. Let's talk things over. I wanted to awaken Ethan with our 5-year marriage, but it was all in vain. Ethan's eyes were full of resentment, mixed with a bit of despair. His voice was like a venomous snake, gnawing at my heart. Our marriage? Jolie, what nonsense are you talking about? There's no marriage between us. I was stunned. I stopped begging him to let me go. That sentence, there's no marriage between us, kept repeating in my mind. It turned out that all these years it had been just my wishful thinking. The car crashed into the truck. In despair, I heard Ethan murmuring affectionately, Awa, I'm coming to accompany you. I brought that woman to make amends to you. The fear of death overwhelmed my anger. At the moment when my soul was knocked out of my body, I shouted unwillingly at Ethan's mangled body. Ethan, why should I apologize to Luna? I'm not wrong. The desperate roar got no response. Big tears rolled down my cheeks. The sky was overcast at this moment, and a heavy rain poured down. A bolt of lightning struck with a loud bang. I didn't have time to dodge, and my soul was hit. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the wedding room with Ethan. I groggily reached for my phone and took a look at the time. To my surprise, I had gone back to 1 year after Ethan and I got married. His first love had just gotten divorced. While I was thinking about it, there were some faint sounds outside the door, and then the door opened. Ethan walked in with an apologetic look on his face. The first thing he said was, Jolie, Luna got divorced. Oh, then let's get divorced too. I looked calm, but his pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes looking at me were full of disbelief. Why do you suddenly want a divorce? I thought he was a bit ridiculous. Otherwise? Quarrel like in the previous life and refuse to divorce no matter what. And then force him to reach the peak of power? Wait for him to perish together with me? I told him all the dirty deeds he had done at this time that I had found out in my previous life. Why? Ethan, you didn't come back all night the day before yesterday, and neither did you last night. Yesterday was our wedding anniversary. Halfway through the meal, you went to the bathroom and left the table. Ethan's face changed slightly. Presumably, his mind was racing to find an excuse. I sneered. I waited for you there until the restaurant closed. You sent me a message saying that there was something going on in the company. Ethan, do you think I'm a fool? I know everything about the company. I founded the company. It was just that Ethan had always wanted to engage in industry before, so I handed it over to him. I also admit that he did have a talent for business, but I couldn't possibly teach the apprentice and starve the master. You already know? I'm sorry. Ethan was powerless to refute and could only apologize. I didn't look at him again. I got up, got out of bed, opened my laptop, and soon 2 divorce agreements came out of the printer. You want to take back all the shares of the company and make me leave with nothing? Ethan took the divorce agreements, his face looking ugly. He stared fixedly at the 4 big words, leave with nothing, on the divorce agreements. I curled my lips into a slight smile and didn't say anything. Ethan probably gritted his back teeth. I found it ridiculous. I turned around and poured myself a cup of hot water. I leisurely waited for him to sign. Ethan looked at me and then at the agreements, as if waiting for me to regret it. Seeing that I didn't react, he slapped the divorce agreements on the table and fled in a hurry. I watched his back and didn't stop him. Where could he go? He just went to find Luna. I went to the company in person to check the accounts and talk with clients. Hearing that I was going to make a comeback, My previous partners immediately invited me to have dinner together. I got my hair done and went to the Xingyu Hotel. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Ethan holding Luna's hand from a distance, chatting and laughing with a certain business partner. I walked past them without giving them a glance, but Ethan called out to me, "Jolie." I pursed my lips and reluctantly turned around. Ethan quickly introduced me. "Mr. Chen, this is Jolie. You should know that she was the former person in charge of our company." Seeing Ethan's eager look, a sense of disgust welled up in me. So he wanted to use my name to reach a cooperation. "Sorry, we're not familiar with each other." My face turned cold, and I turned around and walked away. Ethan didn't know what he said to the business partner. The two of them chased after me. "Jolie, don't be angry. There's nothing between Luna and me." He even brought her along to work. "Still nothing? Do I look that easy to deceive?" "Jolie, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to compete with you for Ethan. Don't be angry." Tears were welling up in Luna's eyes, as if I had bullied her and insulted her. I rolled my eyes rudely. "Luna, you are doing well in the entertainment industry. Why do you want to enter the business world? Learn skills from Ethan?" "No, it's just that this business partner had invested in my drama before." "Don't misunderstand, Jolie, please don't quarrel with Ethan." Luna put her hands together and kept begging me. Those who didn't know would think that I was bullying others with my power. Ethan's face was also getting uglier and uglier. Tears rolled down Luna's cheeks one by one. Finally, Ethan couldn't bear to watch it anymore. "Luna, let's go. Don't beg this heartless woman. We're innocent and don't need to explain ourselves." Ethan was quite tough. He was about to pull Luna away, but Luna broke free from him. As if addicted to acting, she actually knelt down in front of me straight away. She was naturally slender, and kneeling like this made her look even frailier, crying as beautifully as pear blossoms in the rain. I stood in front of her, just like the typical vicious female supporting character in a story, with an expressionless face. "What on earth do you want?" All right. I believe there's nothing between you two. You two are just friends who share the same interests. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." I lifted my leg to leave, but Luna clung to my arm and secretly exerted some force. I felt pain and shook her off forcefully. She fell heavily to the ground. I turned around to look at her, but she gave me a smug smile. It was really a waste of my time for no reason. When I was about to finalize the contract with the client, that damned Ethan walked in blatantly with Luna. My eyebrows twitched when I saw these two people. "Mr. Lee, didn't you promise me this business before?" Ethan asked Mr. Lee eagerly, but Mr. Lee thought for a moment. There was a fake apology on his face, which was common for those who had been in the business world for many years. "Oh, I'm really sorry, Ethan. But you know the strength of Jolie's family and her excellent reputation in the industry. It's really rare." After saying that, Mr. Lee changed the topic and looked at me with praise and admiration in his eyes. "Moreover, General Manager Jolie is an old acquaintance of mine. We've cooperated for many years. She's really a talented person." I didn't expect Mr. Lee to think so highly of me. I smiled awkwardly. Mr. Lee waved his hand and refused Ethan. Ethan opened his mouth, wanting to say something more, but Mr. Lee looked at me and started chatting with me casually. "Hey, General Manager Jolie. You've been out of the business world for several years. I heard that you got married. To which big boss in the industry?" Mr. Lee looked at me with a bit of teasing. I replied with a gentle smile. "Mr. Lee, please don't tease me. I'm about to get divorced." Mr. Lee's face froze for a moment, and soon he smiled and patted me on the shoulder. "It's okay. Young lady, I'll introduce you to a new one next time. Mr. Lee, about our cooperation. How about you take a look at other projects of our company?" Ethan couldn't help but interrupt. Mr. Lee looked at him with a strange look. "Why haven't you left yet?" "I've said that our company won't cooperate with small workshops." Mr. Lee's words were a bit harsh. Business people really dislike people like Ethan who pester others unreasonably. Ethan's face turned blue, and his eyes stared at me fixedly. Probably he wanted me to say a few words for him. I turned my face away and didn't look at him. In the past, I would have protected him at this time, but unfortunately, I wouldn't do that now. It was already evening when I got home. I was applying a facial mask and browsing my phone. My name appeared on the hot search. I clicked on it, and the first entry was, "The famous female entrepreneur Jolie bullies others with her power. Feel sorry for Luna." Well. I was so angry that I laughed when I saw this entry. Those marketing accounts are really good at finding hot topics. Driven by curiosity, I clicked on it. The first few comments were all scolding me. The netizens were like masters of word formation in the new era. They scolded me from all angles without repeating. But I didn't care. However, the next comment made my heart sink. "Girls, we've found Jolie's address. Let's go and make her kneel down and apologize to our sister. Sister Luna needs our protection." They were banging on the door again, and filthy language came through the door. "Jolie, you bitch, sleuth. You only know how to seduce men and can't bear to see our sister happy. Come out quickly and kneel down to apologize to our sister." I called the police, but it was pouring rain outside. I knew that the police response would be slow. There was a loud noise from the window at home. I looked over and saw a dead mouse covered in blood hit the window and slide down. The blood stained the window, looking extremely terrifying and creepy. I thought that the company was not far from home. I didn't know if Ethan was there, but I had to give it a try. I dialed Ethan's number again, but no one answered. On the last try, just when I was about to hang up, the phone was answered. "Hi, Miss Jolie. What do you want with Ethan?" "He's taking a shower." Luna's voice was sweet, full of provocation. My heart sank to the bottom. I'm a strong-willed woman and didn't want her to see my vulnerability, even though she wasn't worthy of being called an opponent. Nothing. Just when I was about to hang up, Luna spoke at the right time. "Jolie, it doesn't feel good to be blocked at the door and scolded, does it?" Luna's voice suddenly became extremely cold and gloomy. I quietly curled the corners of my mouth. "It doesn't feel good to be a mistress, does it?" I deliberately angered Luna. Sure enough, she couldn't keep up the act and started yelling at me. "Jolie, you're really shameless. The one who isn't loved is the mistress. I met Ethan first. You just picked up someone I didn't want. What do you have to be proud of?" I fell silent. When I met Ethan, he had already broken up with Luna. He was just like the standard boyfriend in everyone's eyes, generous, considerate, gentle, and ambitious. Yes, he was ambitious. He was a small boss with a little money and had always wanted to switch to the industrial field. I took over my father's small company and worked my way up to where I am now. From the moment we met, he just thought that I was a poor girl. I spent his money and enjoyed his love. I didn't tell him everything until we got married. He also promised me that he would take good care of the company for me. I took him to meet clients and taught him how to manage the company until he could handle it on his own. The door was smashed open by that group of fans. I didn't have time to hide. What greeted me was a stream of unknown red liquid, then they threw everything they could see in my house at me. I managed to dodge some of them, but for others, I really couldn't avoid them and just had to endure. I hid outside the door and closed it, but didn't dare to shout, for I was afraid that the neighbors around were also Luna's fans. They were crazily pulling at the door and shouting. I could only hold them back and wait for the police to come. Finally, when I was almost beaten to death, the police showed up quietly and caught them off guard. 5 girls were restrained before they could run away. I was sent to the hospital by a kind young policeman. After getting the dirt on my body cleaned up and the wounds bandaged, I finally had time to take a look at my phone. There were over a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from Ethan. I deleted them one by one. "Xiao Zhou, help me contact the company's public relations department and post the recording I sent you and the surveillance video at my doorstep online." After arranging everything, I stretched myself and let out a deep breath, then lay down on the bed. "Luna, I'll make you pay back 100-fold or 1,000-fold for what you did to me today." In the evening, Ethan called again. I answered the call with interest. "Jolie, where are you?" "Jolie, don't be angry. I know I was wrong." "Where are you?" "I'll come to see you." I didn't say a word, the call was silent for a moment like this. Then I raised my eyebrows when I heard faint sobs from the other end of the phone. I'm in the hospital. Don't you want to ask me why I'm in the hospital? I wanted to see if this man really had a heart. I already know, but Jolie, since it has already happened, I think Luna didn't do it on purpose. Do you want to ruin her acting career? I hung up the phone. There was nothing more to say. My heart still couldn't help throbbing with pain. Before I knew it, tears were rolling down my cheeks one by one. I covered my head with the quilt and burst into loud crying. When Ethan came, I had already fallen asleep. When I woke up and saw him, I wasn't surprised. I calmly picked up my phone to check Xiaozhou's work results. Luna's fans turned against her. The parents of the several students who blocked me at my home yesterday recorded videos and cried as they told about Luna's crimes. I was quite satisfied. Then I looked up to face Ethan, the smile disappeared. I frowned with unconcealable disgust in my eyes. Have you signed the divorce agreement? Ethan's expression froze. A flash of embarrassment passed through his eyes. He patiently said, Jolie, can we not talk about this? Let's talk about something else. I suddenly looked up at him and sneered, what is there for us to talk about? Do you want me to let Luna off? Ethan didn't say anything, which was equivalent to an admission. Just when I was about to speak again, Ethan muttered in a low voice. That was what Luna's fans did. Who knew that they would be instigated by Luna with just a few words? Luna didn't do it on purpose. I picked up an apple on the bedside table and threw it hard at Ethan's head. He was stunned. Looking at my angry expression, he pursed his lips, looking aggrieved but not daring to say anything. Ethan. Are you stupid? As long as I'm not dead, is she Luna always right? Her few words almost killed me. My tone was a bit broken towards the end. I didn't even dare to think about what would have happened to me if I hadn't called the police that night. I would have been beaten to death. Those damned fans were just a bunch of lunatics, and Luna, who instigated them behind the scenes, was even more hateful. Aren't you still alive? Why can't you be more forgiving? How can you be so vicious? Jolie. I really misjudged you. It felt as if my heart was tightly grasped by an invisible big hand. This was my so-called good husband. To protect another woman, his eyes were bloodshot at this moment, like a wolf ready to fight at any time. And the enemy he was going to fight against was his wife, who lived with him day and night and shared the same bed. If you didn't come to sign the divorce agreement, get out. I put on a cold face. My voice was like a pool of clear water that instantly froze into ice. Fine, Jolie, suit yourself. Ethan was provoked and lost his temper. He picked up the pen on the table and signed the divorce agreement. After he left, I looked at Ethan's name on the divorce agreement and suddenly felt a sense of relief in my heart. When I was discharged from the hospital, snowflakes were flying, the howling north wind made the leaves rustle. There was no one on the street except me walking alone. After walking for a while, I felt a bit discouraged. Seriously? How unlucky. There wasn't even a single taxi. Don't these taxi drivers want to work anymore? Don't they want to earn money and support their families? I thought resentfully. A silver Mercedes drove slowly in front of me and stopped gently. The car window was rolled down, and Ethan's face appeared. I stopped walking and looked into the window. Ethan's originally handsome and fair face looked extremely haggard at this moment. The dark circles under his eyes were particularly noticeable. I turned my head away and didn't look anymore. I walked around his car. Ethan quickly got out of the car, holding an umbrella and chasing after me while shouting, Jolie, wait a minute. Let me take you home. Ethan shouted eagerly. I shivered. I didn't want him to take me. In fact, since I came back to this world again, I had never taken his car again. I quickened my pace and ignored Ethan. After all, men have longer legs and bigger steps. He caught up with me soon. Jolie, why are you so stubborn? Luna has been blocked by the entertainment industry because of you. Isn't that enough? Ethan tightly grasped my hand, his brows furrowed tightly, and he looked excited. I struggled, trying to shake him off. What does it have to do with me that she's blocked? It's her own problem with her behavior. A taxi stopped in front of us. I shook his hand off forcefully and got into the taxi, then drove away. I went back to work in the company. I heard that after Ethan left the company, he founded his own company and snatched several clients from our company. I was about to go to talk with clients. When I got downstairs in the company, Luna, with a pale face and red eyes, rushed over and knelt down straight in front of me. I quickly reacted and just watched her kneel. She choked and said, "Jolie, please let Ethan and me go." There were more than just our company in this building. Her move made those people working downstairs keep glancing over here crazily. I walked straight out, and sure enough, Luna followed me. "An Americano, please." I was sitting on the sofa in the coffee shop waiting for Luna. When she came over, she still looked like she had been bullied. I was getting a bit impatient. "Stop looking like that. Nobody's bullying you." Tears streamed down Luna's cheeks, making her look rather pitiful. "Jolie, I'm begging you. Please let me go. You've already ruined my career." She put her hands together and pleaded with me. I let out a heavy sigh. "Luna, nobody's holding you back. From the very beginning, it's you who won't let me be. In my previous life, because of her, Ethan and I shared the same bed but ended up perishing together. My love, marriage, and life were all ruined because of her. All the things that happened in this new life were also because of her. Well, Jolie, then just go to hell." Luna's eyes suddenly became extremely vicious, and her expression was distorted. The scalding coffee in her hand was all poured onto me. I immediately stood up, but the area below my neck still didn't escape. The shop assistant was also terrified and hurriedly called the police. Luna was recognized by people, and some busybodies posted it online. Passers-by pointed at her, and some people protected her, looking at me fiercely. I felt a bit scared in my heart. Bullying Luna? A burly man stood in front of me like a wall. "Jolie, apologize to Luna quickly." Ethan came from somewhere, grabbed me at once, and shielded me behind him. Looking at the burly man, he was talking to me though. I ignored him. The man stepped forward and grabbed Ethan's collar, looking extremely arrogant. "Who the hell are you? How dare you play the hero? Be sensible and get lost quickly." The man pushed Ethan away, and Luna behind him didn't say a word from start to finish. Only when Ethan was pushed away did a hint of emotion show in her eyes. "Goddess Luna, don't be afraid. I'll protect you." The man turned to look at Luna, with madness and obsession in his eyes. "He's not normal." That was my only thought. I wanted to leave, but the crowded crowd around me made it impossible for me to get away. Suddenly, the man shouted loudly, "Jolie, how dare you harm my goddess? You deserve to die." I was speechless. No wonder he was Luna's fan. Threatening others with death at every turn was exactly the same as Luna. I turned around, ready to sneer, but when I saw what was in his hand, my pupils suddenly shrank and fear welled up in my heart. The surrounding crowd quickly dispersed. I was almost on the verge of crying. It was sulfuric acid. I was scared. I should have stayed away from them. These lunatics, Luna and her fans, even Ethan was a lunatic. I thought resentfully, with tears rolling down one by one. I was hugged from behind. A muffled groan brought me back to my senses. I turned around. The crazy fan and Luna had been subdued by special police officers in black uniforms. And on me was a young policeman whose forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat due to the pain. His fair, clear, and young face was almost distorted with pain, yet he still smiled at me. The sunlight shone on his neat police cap, giving it a shiny glow. Luna and her crazy fans became the top trending topic. At the police station, I presented one by one the evidence of Luna's crimes that my assistant Xiao Zhou had sent over. The paparazzi also joined in the fray. For the sake of popularity and money, they exposed photos of Luna entering and leaving various hotels with different bosses. After coming out of the police station, I was going to visit that young policeman in the hospital. "Jolie, wait." I turned around when I heard the voice. It was Ethan. I frowned, and my face was full of impatience. "Jolie, actually, I still love you. Can we make up?" "He's crazy." I didn't even bother to pay attention to him and went to look for my car. Ethan wasn't angry either and followed me. "Watch out." Ethan pushed me hard. "Are you looking for death? Don't you look where you're going?" I reacted and looked over. Her blood dyed the snow red. "Ethan, how are you? Call an ambulance." I rushed over and hugged Ethan, shouting at the middle-aged man getting out of the car. Jolie, you're crying. Is it because of me? Ethan's face was pale, and he forced a smile. I sobbed and deliberately put on a fierce expression. Shut up. I didn't want to hear him talk, and I was also afraid that he would use this to blackmail me. After sending Ethan to the hospital, I went to visit the young policeman. He was lying on the bed. When he saw it was me, he smiled at me. I walked closer. When my eyes touched the hideous scar on his back, I gasped. I usually love wearing backless halter dresses. I couldn't imagine how much pain I would be in if that scar was on me. Hey, hey, hey. What are you doing? I'm not dead yet. You're in such a hurry to come and cry. Before I knew it, tears fell down. The young policeman smiled and teased me. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I wiped my tears, looked at the young policeman with red eyes, and said, "Thank you. What's your name?" Justin. I repeated his name softly. It sounded a bit familiar. Justin, are you out of your mind? I told you long ago to come and work in the company. Why did you have to get yourself into this state? An irritable voice rang out from behind. Justin and I both looked at the door at the same time. Zachary's thick eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and his thin lips were pursed into a straight line. When he saw me, he was obviously startled for a moment. Jolie? Why are you here? Apparently, he didn't expect me to be here. He didn't relax much and was polite in the way typical of business people. Well, it was your brother who saved me. I swallowed hard and my eyes darted around. In fact, my toes were already curling with embarrassment. Now I knew why Justin's name was so familiar. So he was the younger brother of the famous business tycoon Zachary, whom people had only heard of but rarely seen. It was said that Zachary doted on his younger brother the most. He would buy him sports cars and mansions whenever he wanted them. Now that his younger brother had such a big scar on his back because of me, wouldn't Zachary want to kill me? Zachary regained his usual cold look when negotiating and just said, lightly. Justin, however, grinned cheekily. Really? Brother, do you know her? So what if we're business partners? Hearing this, Justin looked as if hope had been rekindled in him. He looked at Zachary with bright eyes. Then, you're not interested in her, right? A tough woman who strikes fear into everyone's hearts in the business world and has an iron fist in business. I'm not interested. I didn't expect Zachary to think so highly of me. I smiled at him slightly. Excuse me. Are you Ms. Jolie? A little nurse came over and asked me. I nodded, and she immediately said, the patient in the next ward wants to see you. Ethan? I couldn't help frowning. As for him, I just wanted to pay his medical expenses and then have nothing to do with him anymore. I didn't know what he wanted from me. I greeted Justin and the others and left. When Ethan saw me, his mouth turned down, and his eyes were gentle and affectionate, with a hint of coquetry. Jolie, where have you been? You didn't even come to see me. What was he up to this time? The alarm bells went off in my heart. Ethan, stop messing around. I'll cover all your medical expenses. You can also include the loss of working time compensation, but I can't take care of you. I made it clear. Ethan's face froze, and a hurt look flashed through his eyes. He stared at me. His beautiful peach blossom eyes were full of grievance and accusation. I let him stare and pretended not to understand. After a while, he was like a deflated balloon and slowly said, I'm sorry. I was too greedy. I looked at him in surprise. Then he continued, perhaps it's true that what you can't have always stirs your heart. At first, Luna gave me up for the entertainment industry and chose the man who could give her resources. I resented it and hated it. I also worked hard to make money and climb up, hoping that I wouldn't be abandoned by anyone again next time. She didn't have a good life. After getting divorced, she came to me crying. I softened my heart. I let you down and was finally abandoned by you. I deserve it. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of Ethan's mouth. I didn't say anything and remained silent. It seemed that he knew about my attitude these days. He had just been pretending to be stupid all along, betting on my feelings for him, but I'm sorry. He lost the bet. Before I met him, I was a businesswoman, greedy for profit. The reason I took a liking to him was also because of his tenacious spirit of striving to climb up. He had to be ambitious first, and then we could talk about feelings. I had a dream when I was being rescued. I dreamed that 5 years after we got married, I drove the car and we had a car accident and died together. I suddenly raised my head and stared fixedly at Ethan. The intense hatred made me clench my fist secretly and dig my nails into my palm. You're overthinking it. Have a good rest. I strode away, regardless of how Ethan struggled behind me. I heard his firm rebuttal, no, it was too real. It wasn't a dream at all, no. His slightly desperate tone made me a bit distracted when I reached the door. I paused for a moment and then left as if nothing had happened. When I had some free time, I went to the police station to see Luna. At first, Luna might have thought that Ethan had come to see her, and her face was full of hope. After seeing me, that hope disappeared completely. Her originally sweet and lovely face instantly became gloomy and terrifying. A venomous and almost distorted voice rang out, "What are you doing here? To show off?" I smiled slightly, "Yes. I'm here to laugh at you and show off." I didn't hide it at all, and my eyes were full of disdain for Luna. At this moment, Luna was disheveled. Because of her, the young policeman was injured. The people in the police station didn't care about her at all. She had a beautiful face, but in prison, no one cared about looks. Instead, they thought she was a seductive woman. Luna was beaten every day, and her body was covered with scars, which were particularly hideous. "Jolie, you'll come to a bad end. You're an abandoned woman that nobody wants. Ethan will never like you." Luna shouted and screamed crazily, on the verge of an emotional breakdown. But the more she broke down, the happier I was. Through the glass, I smiled wantonly while she was hysterical. I watched coldly as she cried until she could hardly breathe. When her emotions stabilized a bit, I dropped another bombshell. Ethan had a car accident. The crying stopped, and Luna cursed at me. "Jolie, you're a jinx. You're a husband killer. It must be you." I curled the corners of my mouth. "A husband killer? It's okay to be a husband killer. It's good for myself if I'm a husband killer." I smiled at Luna and didn't respond to her words. After coming out of the police station, I was in a great mood. Yes, that's right. I specially made a trip there just to mock Luna. Like all the villains in TV shows, I mocked her harshly after gaining the upper hand. But I'm not a villain. There won't be a righteous protagonist coming to defeat me anymore. I thought smugly. But then, as joy begets sorrow, someone covered my mouth and nose from behind. My last memory was being dragged into a flower bed. When I woke up again, I was already in a dark basement. In this pitch-dark place where I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, I didn't dare to get up at all and could only grope carefully. The cold and heavy touch of iron chains was around my hands and feet. Who was so extravagant that they dared to chain me up with iron chains? Suddenly, the lights in the basement turned on. The dazzling light made me subconsciously raise my hand to cover my eyes. I heard some rustling footsteps, but I didn't hear anyone speaking. It wasn't until I gently moved my hand away that I saw the whole picture of the basement and the person who came. Like all prisons, this basement had a black iron-barred door. The cement floor was so damp that it seemed that cockroaches were crawling on it all the time. The only thing different was that outside the prison door, on the porcelain white floor tiles, there was a medieval European-style sofa. At this moment, a man with a slender figure and a handsome appearance was sitting on it with his legs crossed. A sneer escaped my lips. "Oh, isn't this an old acquaintance?" Zachary raised his eyebrows, with a smile on his lips. I stared at him, curious about why he had kidnapped me. "Jolie, do you know what you've done wrong?" Zachary's eyes were bloodshot, revealing a strange scarlet color. I thought over all the possible contradictions and disputes that might have happened between him and me. Nothing. Could it be because of business competition? Seeing that I didn't say anything for a long time, Zachary had me taken to a room. When I entered the room and saw the scene inside, I realized how dangerous the man in front of me was. In the whole room, as far as I could see, there were pictures of Luna everywhere, from all kinds of angles, all taken secretly. Even nude photos and those in swimsuits had been bound into big posters. This Zachary was a complete pervert. Fear spread from the bottom of my heart. My voice trembled. What do you want to do? I never expected that two brothers could be so different. The younger brother was a police officer who used his body to block sulfuric acid to save a stranger he had never met before. The older brother, however, was a pervert, who had been spying on others for years and was still ignorant of the law. What do I want to do? Zachary's gloomy voice rang out from above my head. Before I knew it, he was standing in front of me, twirling a small knife in his hand. He crouched down in front of me, and the small knife in his hand casually scratched my face from time to time. The cold touch of the blade made my heart sink. I can go and apologize to Luna. Zachary, as long as you let me go, I can go and apologize to Luna. I spoke up first, for fear that Zachary's hand might accidentally cut my face. Sure, but you have to be punished a little bit. Bang! Just when the knife in Zachary's hand was about to cut my face, a bullet knocked the knife out of his hand. Looking up, I saw Justin in police uniform. He had saved me again. Zachary was taken away in handcuffs. 3 days later, the matter of Zachary was settled. Justin asked me to have a drink, and we went to a small pub. After having 2 glasses of wine, Justin hung his head and muttered gloomily, "How could my brother be like this?" I reached out and rubbed his head, asking him about his plans for the future. Justin said that he had to go back to inherit the company. He hoped that I could spare his brother's life. His parents had already decided that as soon as his brother was released from prison, they would send him abroad. I agreed. I had indeed obtained a lot of evidence of Zachary's crimes. In 3 days, my people had investigated Zachary's background thoroughly. I've always been the kind of person who would take revenge for every grudge. When I got the evidence, my first thought was to report it. But Zachary was too special. He was Justin's brother. Since he was the brother of my savior, I decided to ask Justin for his opinion. I agreed to the plan he proposed. In the end, I didn't report Zachary. I was invited to Justin's president's succession party. After finishing his speech, Justin added, "There's one more thing I want to announce to everyone. That's my lifelong event. Let's welcome my girlfriend, Jolie, the future wife of the president of the Justin family group." Everyone's eyes fell on me, and I nodded slightly in response. After that drinking session, Justin confessed his love to me. The young and shy boy scratched his head, his face turning slightly red, and stammered, "Jolie, I like you. Could you be my girlfriend? I want to protect you all the time." It was like a sudden powerful impact. My heart was beating violently. I followed my heart and agreed to him. I went up on the stage and swept my eyes over the guests present one by one. A familiar face caught my sight. Ethan's eyes were a bit red, and he stared fixedly at me on the stage. Because of that car accident, he lost both of his legs. His company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and he was almost overwhelmed with all kinds of troubles. I didn't expect that he still had the time to attend Justin's dinner party. Perhaps he came to look for business orders. I was the first to look away. Thank you all for your blessings. I hope that I can work hand in hand with General Manager Justin in the future. The end.